If you've been watching WWE any time over the course of the last about 3 to 4 months, you'll be fully aware of their nauseating shoving down your throat of these pay-per-view taglines. Alright, we had too big for just one night for WrestleMania. Alright, Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, Michael Cole, Corey Graves, they told us that to a point where we were blue in the face. We had Money in the Bank, which was the risk is worth the reward. We had Climb the Corporate Ladder. We had the most unique Money in the Bank match ever. So we had 3 different ones for Money in the Bank. Then for Backlash, we've had the greatest wrestling match ever. So on the heels of those, I'm going to now do some pitching for WWE. Alright, the WWE marketing team, I'm going to do you guys a favor and come up with some very good, just downright fantastic WWE pay-per-view taglines. Alright, I've got a bunch for each pay-per-view. This is going to be a stack of fun. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Now, after Backlash, we're going to have the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. And to start us off, I'm going with Too Much Kendo for One Stick. I think that would be an amazing tagline. Too much kendo for just one stick. Next up, I'm going to go with the greatest extremaganza in history. That's just pretty damn good, I reckon. The greatest extremaganza in history. Next up, I've got too many kendo sticks for just one night. That one's similar to the first one, but they're kendo sticks. It's Extreme Rules. They love their pain-free kendo sticks, so that's that one. Next up, too many stipulation matches for just one night. Obviously, once again, playing off the too much, too many, too big, that kind of thing. It's just WWE and their marketing, dude. So, yeah, the fifth and final one for Extreme Rules, I've got too much blatantly ripping off of ECW for one night. Alright, too much ripping off ECW for one night. Now, that's Extreme Rules. I think those ones, WWE, if you go with them, any of them, I think too much kendo for one stick would be a great tagline. Can you imagine Tom Phillips saying that? Oh, the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, too much kendo for one stick. I think that would be gold. Because this company is a meme, so you might as well ham it up as much as you can. Or, like, that one, the greatest extremaganza in history. I mean, you can picture that. That'd be jokes. Extremaganza. I just thought of that randomly. That's just jokes. So, that's Extreme Rules. Then, following Extreme Rules, we're going to be blessed with the SummerSlam pay-per-view. For SummerSlam, I've got too much sand for one beach, or too much sand for just one beach. I think that one fits SummerSlam perfectly. Too much sand for just one beach. Next up, I've got the biggest letdown of the summer. I mean, it's honest, is it not? The biggest letdown of the summer. So there's that one. I've got the show which no longer feels special. I think that one's fairly accurate. We've got the biggest time waster of the summer, or the biggest time sink of the summer. So, yeah, I mean, either of them work. And additionally, my fifth and final one for SummerSlam, too much illogical booking for one show. Now, the too much illogical booking one can apply to basically any of these pay-per-views, but I just feel like too much illogical booking for one show, it just works for SummerSlam, so I thought to throw it in here. So that's SummerSlam. Then we move on to Clash of Champions. Clash of Champions is a show in which, the Clash of Champions was hard to think of ones for, because it's such a dead nothing pay-per-view. Like, it's Clash of Champions, it's in September. September is basically the same as June as far as how dead it is, as far as months go. So anyway, Clash of Champions, I've got the deadest, quote-unquote, B pay-per-view ever. The deadest B pay-per-view ever. It's not wrong, is it? I mean, I'd call it a C pay-per-view, but then again, I guess I'll just go with the deadest B pay-per-view ever. So that's that one. Next up, the greatest filler pay-per-view ever. It just is. Then I've got every title on the line, and every reason not to care. That's a banger. That's a banger of one. Every title on the line, and every reason not to care. I mean, if you're WWE, how could you not do that for your pay-per-view tagline? Every title on the line, and every reason not to care. So, that's that one. And lastly, the fourth and final one for Clash of Champions. Not a good installment since ever, really. So, that's the fourth one. Very creative. Like, with that one there, I was going to do, not a good installment since, and I'd put a year in, but God, honestly, I can't remember the last Clash of Champions show that was, or Night of Champions that was actually, like, overly worthwhile. Night of Champions shows are usually one good match, one memorable moment, and that's it. So, that's Clash of Champions. Next up, Hell in a Cell. There we go. I love this one. So, Hell in a Cell, obviously, infamously horrible pay-per-view, especially after the last 2 years. Usually Hell in a Cell has one good match and just some god-awful booking decisions. I defer you to my Hell in a Cell video I made, earlier in the week or last week. So, anyway, Hell in a Cell, my first one. The risk of logical booking is not worth the reward of fan enjoyment. It's not wrong, that statement. The risk of logical booking is not worth the reward of fan enjoyment. It just sums up the last couple of years of Hell in a Cell perfectly, doesn't it? The risk of logical booking is not worth the reward of fan enjoyment. It's just great. So, then I've got the risk of ruining the structure is worth the reward of satisfying Kevin Dunn. I think that one's pretty good. Just the risk of ruining the structure is worth the reward of satisfying Kevin Dunn. Then I've got too many Hell in a Cell matches for one night. ... 1 month. ... 1 year. So that one, obviously you wouldn't do the ... That's just kind of me talking out loud, basically. But yeah, so too many Hell in a Cell matches for one night. It's just jokes. Too many Hell in a Cell matches for 1 month. It just is. Too many Hell in a Cell matches for 1 year. Just is. So that's the third one. And the fourth one, not the most overly creative one, but it just sounds funny. Kevin Dunn's Playhouse. I mean, the Smart Busters called Hell in a Cell Sheamus's Playground or Sheamus's Playhouse like a few years back. I'm calling it Kevin Dunn's Playhouse because why not? Then the Saudi shows, I'm lumping in Crown Jewel and Super Showdown together because they're basically the same thing. It's a Saudi show. If you pay attention to the name, it doesn't matter. So the Saudi shows, okay, here we go. The first one I've got for the Saudi shows is The True Nightmare from Hell. Because quite literally, these shows, as a viewer, are the nightmare from hell. They're 3 to 4 hours long, completely just painful to sit through. So they're the true nightmare from hell. Secondly, I've got the worst show of the year. I think that'd be a good WWE pay-per-view tagline. Can you imagine Tom Phillips on commentary saying that? Oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, coming up on Thursday afternoon, the worst show of the year, WWE Crown Jewel 2020. Like, you can picture that, can't you? I think it'd be jokes. So, yeah, the worst show of the year. Next up, Mansoor's Playhouse. However you say, like, Mansoor. I'm not going to try and say it, I don't know. But yeah, Mansoor's Playhouse. So, that one's just whatever. Then, I've got this one, Saudi Arabia, where young stars go to die. It's pretty accurate. Just look at Bray Wyatt last year. I'm not going to go into the whole Bray Wyatt and Goldberg thing again, but it was what it was. And lastly, speaking of Goldberg, fifth and final, I've got Goldberg's Playhouse. Because quite literally, it is Goldberg's Playhouse. So that's the fifth one. Actually, impromptu sixth one, where legends go to ruin their reputation. That's just off the top of my head, and I think it's a pretty damn good one. Where legends go to ruin their reputation. So that's the Saudi shows. Next up, Survivor Series. This one, quite frankly, was the hardest one to think of pay-per-view taglines for because it's Survivor Series. It's been around forever. Usually from 2016 through 2019, the Survivor Series pay-per-view has been the best pay-per-view of the year, if not one of the best three. So it's kind of hard to throw too much shade at this, but I've still got a few. So the first one, I've got the most consistently good yet poorly built pay-per-view of the year. It's just true. Then I've got too many brawls for one build. I think that one's pretty good. I was pretty chuffed about that one. Too many brawls for just one build. Then my third and final one, this one's pertinent to 2019. I've got making NXT talents look great, then acting as though they never existed the very next night. So that's the Survivor Series. Next up, TLC. For TLC, this one is very similar to Extreme Rules because TLC and Extreme Rules are basically the same pay-per-view. Just a bunch of stipulation matches that really don't add anything to feuds. So anyway, TLC, I've got too many table spots for just one night, too many ladder spots for just one night, too many chairs spots for just one night, too many stipulation matches for just one night, and Extreme Rules 2.0. So, if you can picture Tom Phillips saying that on commentary, ladies and gentlemen, coming up Sunday night, December, whenever, we have Extreme Rules 2.0 as the TLC pay-per-view goes live on the WWE Network. Like, you can picture that. So, that's TLC. I was going to do the Royal Rumble Elimination Chamber, but I thought there's no real point. I might as well do WrestleMania, because WrestleMania, there's so many I can do. So, the first and foremost, the main one for WrestleMania is all spectacle, no substance. Because that's the God-honest truth of WrestleMania. It's all spectacle, no substance most years. It really is. So that's WrestleMania. Next up, to build on that, I've got fireworks and a long ramp greater than logical booking. It's just true. Then I've got too much disappointment for just one show. It's just jokes. Then I've got too little build for just 2 nights. Or too little for 2 nights, that kind of thing. Then too much clout for one stadium. I can picture WWE doing something dumb like that. Too much clout for just one stadium. I've got Michael Cole's Playhouse, and then Vince McMahon's unholy brainchild. So that's what I've got for WrestleMania. Then I've got a few for general WWE, which, I mean, these are just jokes. So I've got the most uncool wrestling company ever, the most uncool wrestling company at the moment, the most uncool wrestling company of all time. Then I've got the old white males Playhouse. That one's going to appease the social justice warriors. The old white males Playhouse. Speaking of old white males, I've got Vince McMahon's Playhouse, Bruce Pritchard's Playhouse, Kevin Dunn's Playhouse, Michael Pierce Hayes' Playhouse. It's just true, isn't it? So I've got those. Then I've got, this one relates more to the YWC. I've got the reward of YouTube views is not worth the risk of unconsciousness from watching WWE. And that applies to Raw, SmackDown, and NXT at the moment. So I've got that one. Then I've got the risk of watching WWE is not worth the reward. Pretty self-explanatory, but, it's just true. Then I've got, as far as like a general WWE product, I've got the risk of pleasing Dave Meltzer is not worth the reward of ruining your entire company, which, I mean, they don't please Dave Meltzer and they ruin their company anyway. So a bit of a redundant one, but I wanted to get that in there. And lastly, I've got this one. This is a special one for every pre-pandemic Raw in Chicago following CM Punk's exit from the company. So the one I've got here is too many CM Punk chants for just one night. It's just true. So that's been the video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. I've pitched WWE a few taglines because, as we know, guys, WWE love their taglines, don't they? Too big for just one night. The risk is worth the reward. Climb the corporate ladder. The most unique Money in the Bank match ever. The greatest wrestling match ever. So hopefully this video has helped WWE, Vince McMahon, the marketing team, everyone come up with a tagline or several taglines going forward in 2020 and into 2021. Personally, I feel like if you go down this road and you use some of these taglines, I think your company is going to be so much better off for it. I really do. Your company will be nothing short of benefited from this. So basically, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and sub. I'll be up for Backlash later to do a review. I won't do it right as the show goes off the air because I have stuff to attend to, but I'll be up about maybe an hour to two after it goes off the air. I don't really care for Backlash views. The interest is down anyway. So like, comment, sub, you guys know the drill. See ya.